Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with my mate Matty Wohlers, who I used to fly with at Britannia on a 767 years ago. He's recently left Emirates and he's now joined a new cargo company called One Air. He's very excited about that, taking a little bit of a risk, going into the unknown, but making the most of his potential. Really hope you enjoyed part 1, and here goes for part 2. So going back to your free diving, how do you prepare? So as you talked about, you have very little room for error, but you have to be so totally aware in the first place that you're not going into the danger zone. And you talked to me earlier about when you were in Bali with some friends, it took you 3 hours to get into the zone. So thinking about the goal that you'd set for yourself, because there's a difference between goals and limitations. A goal can be, right, I'm going to achieve this. I talk about it. You set a goal to land in a particular place in an aircraft, but that is going to get refueled and go off somewhere else. So that's the imagination for the next thing after the goal we're about to achieve. So you'd had set yourself that goal, that task, that destination, the landing point for your trip in Bali, but it took you a long time to achieve that. How did you last the 3 hours? How were you resilient or persistent enough to keep that goal in mind and trust yourself and be patient enough, be mindful enough to keep going?
It comes down to simple term, self-awareness. You have to be self-aware. Now, it helps tremendously if you are in Bali, in crystal clear water, crystal clear, warm water, surrounded by a beautiful reef and beautiful fish, accompanied by a good friend, to enjoy it. And you say, oh, I don't have to go deep today, but it's a curiosity. I have this deep curiosity where I want to see what's over there, what's beyond there. I want to have a look. You see it from the surface, of course, there's a beautiful, beautiful coral formation. I wonder why. And then you go down and halfway you go, no, I'm not there yet. But it's difficult to explain. But when you're in the zone, what I call you are in dive mode, you know it. And you know it because it's like holding your breath, Ben. You hold your breath now for 2 minutes, 40 seconds?
I've gone up to 2 minutes, 34 seconds, I think.
34, okay.
Yeah.
If you continue this, I can train you up to hold your breath for more than 4 minutes in 2 weeks.
I'm sure you could. I'm sure I could.
Yes, you can. It becomes effortless. You don't have to think about it. But it goes back to self-awareness. And self-awareness is something you create over years. It comes with experience as well. So we've been here a bit longer, have the benefit of having more experience and more self-awareness than somebody who's been on the planet over 20 years. So just to be clear for the viewers and listeners, it takes, like anything, if you want to become a good footballer, a lot of practice, grit, discipline, perseverance to get to where you are. I, by no means, a high achieving freediver, mainly because I would love to, but I can't because my job is flying too much. You have to realize that when you come back from a cross-Atlantic flight overnight, you won't be able to do a deep dive the next morning. And my friends who started with me have a 9-to-5 job. They are acclimatized, they sleep there in beds most of the time. They can go far beyond. One is a very good instructor. The other is an instructor as well, but he dove up to 88 meters. I can only do that because he had the time to do it. Again, that's being self-aware of your limitations. Don't set yourself some unrealistic goals.
And actually, you were telling me a story when we met last week, a couple of weeks ago, that you came back from an overnight flight wanting to achieve a decent goal, but knowing that actually it probably wasn't, you weren't safe to do that. The people around you wouldn't be safe as a result. And I coach at the cricket club, my son's team. He's 15, and I see them when things don't go well for them, or they don't get selected for the side, they're completely emotionally hijacked, and it's all about judgment. That I'm being judged, self-consciousness kicks in. I'm being judged. I'm not good enough, and then the devil on the shoulder is telling them, it takes over rather than the angel. I metaphor it to our inner captain, our inner co-pilot, and the overall commander. Yes. So for me, just to elaborate slightly on that, the co-pilot is a reflection of our basic fear and fight and fly limbic system, dependent on the 5 initial senses, which trigger us to say we're going to die, we've got to either fight or run away. That's the co-pilot. The inexperienced knows a bit of theory, inexperienced, really not quite sure. You've got the captain who's got the experience, as we've talked about here, and can add the nuance to the theory, and we can make judgments, and much more informed judgments. But then on the downside, can get a little bit complacent, a bit too big-headed in a way. What do we need? We need the commander overall to take into account the legitimate concerns of the co-pilot, i.e. the ego, the experience of the captain, and that commander represents our value system. And I think when we establish a really strong value system, are we here for ourselves? Are we here for the community? Are we here to develop every level of potential in ourselves, other selves? Then we can make those decisions. So when you landed and couldn't get in the water, there was no self-judgment about the fact that you couldn't achieve what you were hoping to achieve, and you didn't judge yourself because other people thought you were less than by not doing what you were supposed to be doing. And I'll let you tell me the detail of that story.
Yes, I came back from a night flight. I was super keen to go diving with the group. I went out and I said to them, look, I've just come back from a night flight. I'm not fit. I just limit the dive to this, just to let you know. And in free diving, we have a safety system called a buddy system. It's actually when you dive deeper, you buddy up. Then you need to meet the diver who comes back from his dive at a certain depth, and follow him up all the way to the surface in case he blacks out due to lack of oxygen. So on that particular day, I said to the guys, look, I can't safety buddy today because I'm just not fit, you know? And it's not a problem whatsoever. But you see, free diving is slightly odd out because it's you're mostly surrounded by people who understand, and since this is a existential threat, as said before, there is no way for what I call fluffing about. You have to be brutally honest, first of all, with yourself and with your teammates, and acknowledge your limitations.
Self-awareness again.
Go back down to self-awareness. Be mindful of yourself. Be mindful of the people around you. around you. Yeah.
Emotional and social intelligence,
Yes.
open honesty, and knowing the limitations, knowing our limitations, but not being governed by them in the long term. The limitations are going to be that we can't
Correct.
do a big dive when physically we're not in the right position. If we have an eating problem, we can't go out and run or cycle or play cricket as I do to the level if we're not in the right zone, if we haven't slept, if we've got a bit of illness, if we haven't eaten properly. Know those limitations, not try and hide it, stick a load of alcohol down us and pretend that we're braver, that we're better looking, that we're more intelligent, we're more interesting, which is one of the reasons I've given up alcohol. That's no judgment of anybody else, by the way. It's just I don't think it makes me as honest as I can be. It doesn't help me to perform, give me the maximum amount of energy. And like you, I want to be able to push beyond what I thought was my limitations, really develop my potential by going further, deeper, higher, faster, more intuitively, with better understanding. I think it's trying to find those bits, but it all starts with self-awareness.
And both of my chip in. It's about helping other people. Now you mentioned that I've been helped in life, so have you, and I'm eternally grateful for that. And I think if I can give back just a bit, it would make me happy.
It's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
It's the ultimate goal. What can we give back? I see that as when I'm wrapped in myself and my feelings of limitations, my lack of self-worth, which I think we all do. Alfred Adler talks about this in terms of we all have an inferiority notion, because when we're younger, we're completely helpless. We are completely helpless towards we need our mum, we need our dad, we need the community to look after us. And you look up to somebody who started to walk before you, or somebody who's driving a car before you, and there's a feeling of inferiority, and that can be very healthy if we think, well, this is a message for me to strive so that I can grow and go through the difficulties. When we develop this complex, then we start to become dishonest, and we start to hide away in the shadows. We start to blame, invalidate, shame, belittle, intimidate, ostracize, manipulate. I've got an acronym called BizBoim for that, and it creates destruction everywhere, which we see. So I think the ultimate goal for me is, what am I doing that can contribute to other people? If I push myself beyond the comfort zone, I learn how to grow, I can come back and not advise somebody. I can tell them the story of how I managed to find this solution to get beyond my limits, find my potential. And hopefully that would inspire somebody else. I can't guarantee that they will do. I know there's plenty of people who think I'm a complete arse, to be honest. I trigger some negative feelings inside them.
I mean, that's just natural.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be boring if we're in that case?
Yeah.
So back to leadership, and I think what is really, really important is the very good leaders in history, I love my history, admitted their mistakes. One definition of a leader is somebody who gives, he never takes. That's one. So if you are not concerned, if you're not concerned about sorry, Ben, I have to think about this.
No, I think it's self-consciousness that what I'm thinking is what we're talking about.
A healthy self-awareness and self-esteem, and are happy in your own skin, love yourself, you can help yourself, you can help others, you can contribute, you can support and help others, advise, and so forth. That's true. What we do at work all the time, don't we?
We do that at work, and this is what circling back to what we started to talk about at the beginning, why I consider you a fantastic mentor in terms of leadership, is that there's never any judgment on trying to prove or be perfect. Perfection is just the quickest way to suck the oxygen out of everybody, including ourselves. It destroys innovation and potential creativity. There's a whole, I see it everywhere. Everybody's trying to be bloody perfect. God, what a miserable way to live. But your story of Shackleton, which I need to read because I have read a little bit about him, of the fact that he took that troubled officer and gave him a senior role. That's a brilliant story, because that's the kind of thing that you would do in a flight deck. You've learned from that. So tell us that story.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That was when Sir Ernest Shackleton and his crew got stranded in Antarctica. There's quite recently their ship, the Endurance, was discovered. And to me, Sir Ernest Shackleton is one of the few who is supreme leader. So in order to survive what most people would classify as a hopeless situation, he needed the support of every single crew member. Unfortunately, there was one crew member who had doubt about surviving, and he was given a very prestigious job, but non-safety related. And by having done that, Sir Ernest Shackleton took this naysayer out of the equation and turned him into something important. So this man now, with this prestigious job, thought, I'm important, I'm indispensable, therefore his will to survive went up.
Contribution as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He contributed by not being obstructive anymore.
And so, that's the message, is Shackleton understood psychologically that the guy's behavior, the disruptive, the naysayer, is all to do with fear, self-consciousness, trying to create an image of superiority. This is a superiority complex that Alfred Adler talks about, and the fact that we have to try and big ourselves up because we feel so inferior. But if a smart person comes along and understands the psychology about it, thinking, actually, this is really to do with lack of self-worth. They don't point the finger and criticize and say, well, sod off, because they become even more destructive. Right. To be able to help someone find their self-worth, again, increases that back bucket of capacity that my friend Emma Henderson talks about. Correct. Everybody wins. It's just, it flies, doesn't it? You go higher and further and more gloriously together. And it's about communities. It's about what is the ultimate goal. We need to be making the most of the resources here. There is a chance that everybody here is valuable. So let's do everything we can to create a feeling of self-worth and self-value in each and every individual. Then the sum of that team productivity is way greater. So the value of that team productivity is way greater than the sum of its parts. That's really what leadership is about.
You learn. Again, you learn from mistakes, and you're not afraid to change your opinion about things. This is unfortunately something which is currently quite important, so-called important in politics, where you say something, even if it's wrong, you stick to that because you're afraid that if you change your opinion, you're being accused of becoming a turncoat. Where there was recently an interview with Robert Kennedy about his running mate, where the interviewer asked him, "Oh, but she said this and this in the past," and he said, "Yeah, she said that some time ago, but in the meantime, she had learned more and realized that she was wrong. So she changed her opinion on that." And I thought that is so true.
Yeah, changing the opinion. It reminds me of a story I read about Galileo in the 15th, 16th century. I can't remember exactly the time period, but up to then, the religious doctrine being the word,
Yes.
said that the Earth is the center of the universe and everything revolves around the Earth. So he designed the first of the telescopes, had a look and thought, hang on a minute, I think we might be going around the sun. But he realized, because that would be such a controversial thing to say, that he would potentially get hung, drawn and quartered, which in fact he did in the end. When he professed this, he got convicted and thrown in jail for heresy. Yes. And spent the next 10 years in this jail until he died, because he pointed out the obvious. And Matthew Said, I think he referenced that story, I can't remember, but he talks about the fact that we're now in this cognitive dissonance, bound by failure and fear of failure and making mistakes, that we're not listening. Society is now not listening to obvious things that prove the black box thinking, that actually we need to start having different opinions, and it's the same as it was 500 years ago. I can see that, because everything is very negative. You get cancelled very easily, and it's causing an awful lot of problem in our society. I think we need to
but I see some hope. There are so many people become courageous, speak up, and self-aware of their critical thinking, not following the herd instinct. That's quite positive. That's very positive. It's everywhere you see it. For us pilots, and again the freedom community, it's something foreign to not be a critical thinker.
Dangerous.
Because we constantly have to think of a plan, contingency plans. You know, Plan A doesn't work. What about Plan B or C or D? You know, you talked about the storms we face. How to get around it, how we can fly the aircraft with a system that be redundant, safely from A to B. You see, and if you apply that to society, if more people were living their lives as we will fly aircraft, I think we'll have a healthier, more tolerant, open society.
Everything working in harmony. Absolutely.
Correct.
The whole flight mission is based on a few hours that are possible because of thousands of people being involved for a long time, including Leonardo da Vinci, who designed, as you mentioned earlier, the first of the aircraft, the helicopter. It took all those years we talked about. Imagination took hundreds of years, 500 years or so, to actually come to fruition, or 400 years before the Wright brothers and the other people at the same time started flying in an aeroplane. So we've had so many people involved in this process. Now keep our imaginations open, that we can go on these incredible journeys, knowing that there's going to be some bumps, but everything in harmony. So the whole aeroplane is in harmony. The wings, the tube, the solid core, pressure changes are in harmony with the wings carrying the fuel, flexing around, all the support systems. I use that as my metaphor for mind, body, heart, and soul, health, and intelligence. But one word you used there is courage. Winston Churchill said that fear is a reaction and courage is a choice. So if we have the courage to step aside from our self-consciousness, then we will find ways forward. We will become aware of what that fear, that basic operating system, that the emotional system is telling us, understand that that's not legitimate. Think, well, let's keep the goal in mind, and we will keep going there, and we will develop a harmonious situation for only ourselves, but also for everybody else around us. And it starts with a smile. I think courage starts with walking down the street and having a smile. Maybe you say, well, that doesn't take courage. I bet it does when you're feeling a bit fed up and pissed off with whatever's going on in life, to walk down the street and smile genuinely at somebody. I think takes a little bit of courage. This one tiny step that then builds on to the next level of courage.
It does. It does. It has a positive effect on so many people. Actually, can imagine you start walking down the Royal Mall. It's called the main street in Edinburgh. You start there, the castle, and you start to imagine it's a rainy, miserable day, and everybody is down, and there's one person right at the top of the castle. He starts smiling at the guards, and then continues all this way down, and in the day you have a happy city. Could you imagine that? It's a bit like out of Momo, Michael Ende, where you can make a difference. Don't be afraid of making a difference. I think that the main story here is that everybody in the team is a value member. Everybody is important, and it's okay to make mistakes as long as mistakes are being picked up and rectified. So don't be afraid of not making mistakes, because if you don't make mistakes, you show no courage, you don't show any imagination. And with no imagination, we wouldn't be able to fly aircraft, Leonardo da Vinci, he had this idea with Lord Dyson. And now he had 5,000 prototypes before he came up with his first one. So don't give up. It's important to have dreams. Jules Verne, without Jules Verne, we wouldn't have gone to the moon. There would have been no Elon Musk building rockets, trying to fly to Mars. So it all stems from dreams, ideas, fantasies, never-ending story, fantasy world, Fantasia. Again, Michael Ende, amazing book, Fantasia. It's about having, it's worth reading the book. The film is not good, actually. Reading the book, it's really good. It's about this boy is bullied, runs into a bookshop, takes this magical book, hides in the attic of his school, and he is this fat, non-sporty child who is not really loved, supported, and he starts reading the story about Fantasia and suddenly realizes there's a real world, and he meets this person, Trio, who is one of the main characters trying to save Fantasia, and Fantasia is under threat because the nothing is taking over and destroying Fantasia. And it's about, if you don't have any fantasies, you as society have no future. Won't have a future.
Absolutely.
It's a very strong story. It's very, very interesting. It's very, very good.
I remember seeing the film when I was younger, but I need to read that, and I think you're right about
the film is unfortunately is not good now. The book is so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of that some sort of quote that goes along. I'm paraphrasing, saying, "Dreams don't become reality whilst we're asleep." So we need to wake up, become conscious, self-aware, and then we need to add that courage to go, despite what everybody else says, what society says. You're stupid, you're an idiot. Because the ones that are least happy are the ones who are most vocal and scream and shout, understanding actually that they're just demonstrating fear. If they're going to criticize, it's a fear base. If they're giving you some constructive feedback, which we do in an aeroplane again, of course, like, how did that go? Well, again, I talked to my coaching, my guys at the cricket club, say, well, how do you get on? And they naturally go into, oh, well, I was out 4 times and I dropped a catch. And I was like, bollocks. I want you to say nothing negative. I want you to tell me everything that you've done well and the rest of the team has done well, and give me some examples of how we can improve on the things that didn't go so well. There's no loss. It's only learning. Mate of mine, Graham, talks about that whenever you do anything, he's head of an operations team at the company I used to work for. Yes. And he tells his guys, there's never a loss. It's not a win or a loss. It's about winning and learning. And we've got to put that in practice. We've got to put our courage and believe that we are there for the right reasons, looking after the community as a whole, developing ourselves through self-awareness first. But Matty, I've got to go. Sadly, not sadly at all. I've got to go and take my stepfather to the clinic to have his bandage changed on his on his leg. So we're going to have to wind this up. But again, we talk. We used to talk for hours and hours on our trips together, and we could be going on for hours and hours. But as always, every guest I've had, I want so much more, and you've got to come back, and we'll do it live next time.
Good, let's do that. And
anyway, thank you everybody for listening and watching Matty and I talk here. I hope you've got something out of it in terms of self-awareness, leadership, courage, generating people, helping support people with potential. Matty, have a brilliant day, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Thank you for the opportunity. Mate. See you. Bye.
Absolute pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was another wonderful conversation with another very good friend, Matty. I always feel incredibly blessed to have met these people in my life. They've given me some great encouragement to find the very best in myself, great mentors, great inspirations for me to go on and do the same for others. So Matty has really done a lot for me. If you would like my support to help you find the very best in yourself, you can head to my website, benlefleming.com. You'll see my coaching offers there. You can book a 30-minute free discovery call. We can work out what it is that you're aiming to achieve, the goals, the destination, the landing spots that you're trying to get to, and how we work out a good flight plan, as I call it, to get to that spot. I have a newsletter that comes out every month, and I share some tips and tricks and some inspirational stories and some good books and podcasts that I can recommend. In the meantime, until the next podcast, I wish you all the very best, and please remember to keep it in the greens.